Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Leader Tree, where leadership grows. I'm Chris Miller, and today is the 11th day of October, and what is surely to go down as one of the worst years in recent history. 2020, rough year, folks. It's been a rough year for everyone across the board, it seems. We've got pandemics coming. We've got election shenanigans going on. We've got business has been down across the board. People have lost their jobs. It's just been a nightmare kind of year for everybody. But look, I want to tell you that things can still push forward. And things are pushing forward. In my personal business, we have had a good year. Things have not been so bleak over here because what I do as a factoring professional is I help struggling businesses that need money get access to their money quicker on their invoices, right? Well, this year a lot of businesses have started to struggle because of the shutdowns and things like that nature. So for me, it has been a decent year, but I recognize that for a lot of us, this year has been really tough. Really, really, really tough. And that's what I want to talk about today is how to work on a year that is really tough for us. How do we move forward when things are going wrong? And the number one thing that you'd have to do when things are not going according to plan is you have to stick to the plan. Okay? Yeah, sure, you make adjustments as you need to, but you keep to your plan. And you say to yourself, if I want to accomplish this, and this is where I'm at down here right now, what do I got to do to get up here? Right? And then you find out what that is, and you execute that. You do it. You get that done. Because failure is not a factory installed option. It's something we learn to do, right? Failure is something we learn to do and something we accept. And if you don't accept failure, then there's only one other opportunity for you, and that is success, right? So you keep moving until that mission is accomplished. Okay. So the next thing that you're going to want to do is you got to make sure that you follow through on everything that you say you're going to do. You know, I put out a post maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that, where I was telling people, I said, look, you know, I had 3 appointments that blew me off. If you're going to take the time to set an appointment, then I'm making the time to run that appointment with you, right? So you need to be there. If you're not wanting to be there, don't waste my time in setting the appointment, because now I have moved other things that I could have moved into that spot somewhere else in order to be here for you. And that's the truth with all of us, right? So if you tell somebody you're going to be somewhere, be there. If you tell somebody you're going to do something, do that something, right? Because your word is your bond. And look, folks, there's only one thing in this world that cannot be taken from you, and that's your integrity. It's also the only thing you can't get it back once you give it away. Okay? They can take anything else, but they can't take your integrity. The only one that can do that is you. So, you know, take care of your reputation. Take care of yourself. And say, if I'm going to give my word to somebody, dagnabbit, I'm going to keep that. Okay? Because you are as Truman had written on his desk, the buck stops here kind of person, right? If you're in leadership. You are the one who people rely on. So you need to be there for them when you say you will be. I don't care if it's an employee. I don't care if it's a client or a customer, however you work them. I don't care if it's paying your bills on time, right? If you tell somebody you're going to do it, do it. Okay? All right. So we know that number one, we got to stick to our plan. We know that number two, we got to stick to our word, right? What's the third thing that is essential in a year like this to make sure that your year doesn't go just horribly, right? That's getting creative. All right, this is where leadership comes in. This is where, if you look at another post that I recently did over in Facebook, there was a photograph that I saw on another leadership website, and this website, there's a picture of a shark coming after a businessman. The businessman has got a sign up that says help, and I was like, oh, this is horrible, right? Just absolutely horrible. Because this is not what leadership is, right? Leadership is lassoing that shark with your belt and riding it in to the shoreline like a conquering hero, right? That's what leadership is. Leaders get creative when it comes down to pressure. We don't just say, well, I can't figure this out, so let me just go ahead and not do this. Things don't get done that way, do they? So we need to make sure that we can do things in a way that are going to get the job accomplished. Sometimes that's not a glaring beacon in the sky to say, do this and you'll get there. Sometimes you got to get creative. Sometimes you got to think outside the box. You know, there's a great test out there where it's a series of 9 dots and they form a box. And the test is, take your pen, put it on one dot, and without ever picking up your pen, you got to be able to fill in all of the dots in a straight line. Okay? All the dots in a straight line. It's not easy to do, and it's impossible to do if you can't get creative, if you can't think. There's nothing in that scenario that says you have to stay within the box with your lines. And if you go outside the box and you get a little creative, you find it's actually pretty simple to do. But staying within the box, you can't do it. So that gives you just an idea of what I mean when I say you gotta get creative. And it's not always staring you in the face, nice and brightly, and to tell you, hey, go outside your normal line here and let's get this accomplished. You know, you have to think, you have to use your brain, you have to get creative, you have to do those things, especially in a year like this, because things don't always go according to the plan, right? So when they don't, you got to be able to pivot. You got to be able to roll with that. All right. Now, number 4, you got to be able to follow up on a regular basis. Because look, this year, more than most, people are running frazzled. Okay? Business leaders are running frazzled. Everybody's running frazzled. Nobody knows what they're doing from moment to moment, it seems sometimes. You got to follow up with these things or you're going to lose them. That's my point. Okay? So you got to keep following up if you want to stay in the game. Right? Because you're not going to win if you let it just die. Like I've said 1,000 times, I know you've all heard me say it. I know you'll all hear me say it more. The biggest sin you can create in business is failing to follow up. Right? Why would you spend all of your time and energy to cultivate a lead, right? And sometimes even money to cultivate a lead, to bring that lead in, to do a call with them, to set something up with them, and then just let it die because you never follow up again, right? It's not in your best interest to do that, and it's going to cost you money. Right? And in a year like 2020, where literally the world is on its end, right? Follow up is more important than ever. Not letting those things happen to you is more important than ever. Now, the economy has been bouncing back. Things have been rolling, right? So that's good news. And I have personally seen that business has picked up dramatically across the board in many industries, especially here in the last 2 weeks. So things are getting back on track. So don't worry. My prognosis is that 2021 is going to be a fantastic year, especially in the United States. But you got to follow up. You got to do all these things. You got to be true to your word. Okay? You got to stay to your plan. You got to do all these things. And if you can do all of that, you can pull 2020 out at the end here, and you can make something decent for yourself. Now, folks, if you are out of a job, because I know a lot of leaders are right now, you got to remember, leaders are stars, okay? That's why we're in such high demand across the universe for what we do, what we have that we can bring to the table, right? Because you don't have a team if you don't have a team leader, you know? Somebody's got to lead the charge every time. Somebody who can bring that team together and turn it from a bunch of like-minded individuals into a well-rounded working machine. Okay, that's what leadership is. That's what leaders do, and that's why we're in such high demand. Anywhere you go, there's a spot for us, right? But you got to do those things, especially in a down year, because things are a little tougher, and you can do that. And you'll make this ending here, this last quarter, come out pretty well for yourselves, okay? If you do it. If you're having trouble, if you're out of a job, if you need more work, things like that, give me a call. I'll be more than happy to work with you. All right, or shoot me an email at sales@factorcareers.com. I'll show you how to be a factoring broker if you want to, because this business has been going strong all year, okay? One of my recent students who's just graduated at factorcareers.com, she has had me help her work on her first deal. And that's something that I've always encouraged students to do when it comes to your first deal. Have somebody help you with it, you know. Don't just tackle it alone and hope for the best, you know. So reach out to me. Reach out to, you know, your fellow graduates or whoever can help you with that have done it a little bit longer than you have, and, you know, get that needed help. But this young lady, she helped me out. She said, Chris, you know, can you help me with this deal? I've got a deal. It could be, you know, I mean, it's not that big, but, you know, it could be lucrative down the line. So I helped her out with it. We talked to her. We took it from a $300,000 deal to a $5 million deal after some discussion. And I said, you know, this is where you guys really want to be. And they agreed. And things were moving well, right? But then they started getting creative on their own, right? And they tried to go outside of the channels, try to cut us out of the deal, started to solicit lenders on their own, try to make it happen. And I told her, I said, look, just keep following up. Just keep following up, because they're ghosting her, and they're not getting back to her. So a week goes by, and she hasn't heard from them. And I said, just keep following up, and because that's where the money's at. It's in the follow-up. Somebody, I said, here's what happened. They're talking to other people. They're shopping things around, right? And I said, but somebody is going to drop the ball to where they're not going to get back to them quick enough, and you're going to be right there. So keep those follow-ups going. And when you follow up, you're going to get it. And she did, and we're back in that door, And here it is on Tuesday when the bank reopens. We're going to be signing that deal and getting it funded. That is a $53,000 payday to this new young broker. $53,000 payday. Folks, in a year that we've had, that is more money than a lot of people have made all year long. She's going to make that on her first sale. And that's not uncommon with what we do in this business. So it was great to be able to help her with that. And I'm so proud of being able to have been part of that for her and help her get there and show her how to do it. There's not going to be anything that can stop her now, because let me tell you, that turned into one of the most difficult deals that I've personally ever been part of. Right? Because they did. They tried to cut us out of the deal. They tried to go behind her back. They went to 3 other companies on their own, didn't tell us about them. They almost signed with a competitor company during that time frame, but her follow-ups got her back in the door for them to say, well, actually, we're about to sign a deal with this other company. So, thank you, but we don't need you. Because she kept following up, they felt they were obligated to at least tell her that. When they did, they opened up that door and got her back in there. And she said, I told her, I said, get them to send you a copy of it. She said, let me look it over for you. They sent her the copy, and we were able to stop them from making a $70,000 mistake and get them something that was a better deal for them, to save them $70,000 a year in fees that they would have had to pay to that company. So that's what I'm talking about. I mean, you've got to keep following up, and if you do, and you're going to see the results. Don't let it not happen. All right, folks, you have a fantastic week. Okay? Have a fantastic last quarter of 2020. Make that plan, stick to that plan, do your follow-ups, stick to your word, and above all else, have a fantastically fun time. Okay? Don't let things get to you. Blow it off, move on, adjust and pivot as you need to, but keep to the path. All right, I'm Chris Miller. This has been a short episode, but I am very pleased with it as it is, and I don't think there's anything more that we need to say except have yourselves a fantastic day. And remember that here at the Leader Tree, strong roots build stronger skills. All right, bye-bye.